Goedemiddag, ik ben Dieter Wilsons en als groep Event Director heet ik van MPZ Maintenance and Pumps and Valves. Heet ik jullie allemaal van harte welkom op dit tweede webinar in een reeks van 3. En 3 webinars, omdat wij nu op 23 en 24 maart eigenlijk voor de eerste keer 3 live beurzen samenbrengen die met proces en met onderhoud te maken hebben. En vandaag hebben we dan een kort seminar door Yokogawa, die exponent is van Pumps and Valves. En de bedoeling is eigenlijk van na dit webinar om de link te leggen ook naar het live event. Dus na het half uurtje is er geen Q&A. Als u vragen heeft, dan kan u uiteraard stellen op de stand van Yokogawa op Pumps and Valves. En onze spreker vandaag is Mark Breeze. And he's an English speaker, so he will do the presentation in English. So be welcome, Mark. And I will give the floor is yours for the session about risk analysis and work permits in digital transformation. So please go ahead, Mark.
Okay, I will share my screen. Oh, I think you need to give me the control. There we go. Can you see that, Dieter?
Yeah, it's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Right, as Dieter said, my name is Mark Breeze. I work for Yokogawa RAP, which is the Center of Excellence for Control of Work within Yokogawa. My background, I'm a qualified chemist, spent almost the last 30 years in process engineering and with process equipment in general. So today we're going to talk about digital control of work solutions. But before I get into that, I think it's worthwhile saying a little bit about Yokogawa overall as a business. Yokogawa itself is a large business located or headquartered in Japan, and today it has offices all over the world, including 2,500 and growing service engineers to support people's needs. So no matter where you are, there's always someone from Yokogawa close by, ready to support and help with those needs. And the RAP business is a part of Yokogawa. We began in the early 1990s with our digital software solutions, originally for very high hazard petrochemical and chemical. And since then, we've expanded out from our original sort of UK HSE type base to Europe, Middle East, US, Far East Asia. And over that period of time, we've consistently added new modularity, new capabilities, new solutions to our overall control of work offering in order to give our customers better visibility and an even easier access to all things safety. But let's look at that safety in a little bit more detail and break it down to look at, what is control of work? Well, control of work isn't just the creation of a permit. It isn't just getting some signatures on a piece of paper or an electronic form to go and do work. Control of work is really about 3 things at its core. It's about the capability of being able to carry out risk assessments so that we can understand the work required and all of the risks that are associated with it. It's isolation management so that we can manage all forms of power that might affect people carrying out work. That could be electrical work, it could be fluid power, it could be motive power, it could even be vehicles moving around the place. And those then tie together with the permit, of course, which has to have all of the authorizations and digital signatures together with it to produce an overall control of work solution. And of course, digital solutions are the easiest way to achieve this. So then we get into talking about what control of work is really all about and what safety is all about. And we think back into the times of our forefathers and we think, well, life used to be a really unsafe place and where we worked used to be quite unsafe. You can see some examples there with including a couple of shots of the building of the skyscrapers in New York City in around about the 1920s. a sad fact for you on that one is that for every, I think it's for every foot of altitude in those skyscrapers, one person died in terms of the overall fatalities that were involved. And of course, today, life is much safer. We don't do things like that anymore, or do we? These are some typical examples of unsafe working that all of us will have seen on a reasonably regular basis. My favorite is that one in the middle where you've got three guys standing on a plank so that one can step out into an area to carry out some work. Incredibly dangerous. It only needs for one of them to turn around and slip, and two are going to get a fall over and the other one is going to plummet between a ship and a dock. And okay, some of these examples are from all around the world. So let's look at Europe and see how safe Europe really is. Well, some statistics for you. The latest statistics produced in Europe were 2019, just before the pandemic. And in Europe as a whole, not including the UK here, there were 3.1 million non-fatal accidents. So those are accidents where people got hurt and had, 4 days or greater away from work to recover from it. But there weren't, no fatality, which is good. However, in 2019, 3,408 people failed to come home at the end of the day because of a work fatality, which is a really scary number. And the ratio is broadly, it's exactly about 920 to 1. If you think about it as being 1,000 to 1 for every incident, every 1,000 incidents, you get one fatality. That's about right. And sadly, non-fatal accidents and fatal incidents are increasing, with the fatalities increasing faster than the non-fatal accidents, which is interesting in and of itself. And the core reason why this happens is because 60% of accidents happen due to lack of or inadequate control of work. And poor understanding of risks being the primary factor that's causing that. Now, when we look at that in more detail, obviously people are trying to do things about it, and national and international standards are driving towards greater and greater levels of responsibility towards safety. The most recent of all is the new ISO 45001, replacing the Operational Health and Safety Standard 18001. There's an interesting paragraph in there, which is section 5.2, and it says that safety can no longer be delegated. What that means is that safety cannot be the responsibility of the health and safety manager, or cannot be the responsibility of individual people working within a business. Of course, everyone's responsible for safety, but the ultimate accountability remains with the management of any business now in the legal format of the ISO standards. And even the old 9001 standard talked about risk management and safety, and says that those who lead the organization must promote risk-based thinking. Well, if you're an ISO 45001 company, you have to do more now than simply promote risk-based thinking. You're ultimately responsible for it. And in essence, we've seen the figures that I've just put up, we've seen the details, and we've seen that we're trying to get more responsible and to have tighter regulations in and around health and safety. So I think you'd all agree with me that we have to be able to do things more intelligently. If we can do that, it will help us to work more safely and really learn the lessons from the past and the incidents that we may have had to make sure that they don't happen again in future. Because if we can do that, improved safety will lead to higher efficiency and profitability and better performance for the business as a whole, with less loss and, of course, lower risk. And that's really where the RAP4 system from Yokogawa comes in. It provides a series of modules, from risk assessment to safe lockouts through mobile functionality and all of the other services that you would expect around that. And at its heart, a capability to have a common safety vocabulary that's really easy to use and to understand by everyone involved to make their work and their life a little bit safer. And that's set out as a linked, intuitive workflow that is easy for everyone to see every stage along the process and to be able to carry out audits along every stage of the process. So in essence, you get a smart system of clear, intuitive modules with that intelligence baked in from day one to assure complete control of work compliance and to enable businesses to drive continuous safety improvement. And let's look at how it does it. So instead of giving you a massive wad of paper to fill in with tick boxes for applicable and not applicable and decisions to be made, and those can be in simple digital format or paper format, depending on the traditional modes of working. The RAP4 system does exactly the same thing, but it allows a greater level of focus by simply asking, what are the conditions under which we're working? What are the activities that we're carrying out? And what are the tools that we're being used to do the work? So if I take an example of a confined space, behind that icon, we would hold all of the mandatory activities required to do the work and all of the job selected activities, so things specific to that individual work item that's being carried out. So in a confined space, we might be placing a standby man independent of the work in case something goes wrong so that they can call emergency services. As optional activities, we may have continuous gas monitoring depending on the type of confined space we're entering. And these will differ depending on the individual icon selected. So if I pick welding, there would be another set of rules applied automatically to the work. And if I'm carrying out water jetting, another set of rules, including making sure that I don't electrocute everybody along the way. So we not only have mandatory activities and job selected activities, but each icon can also be configured to hold additional items such as the PPE that might be required, the authorized signatures at each step to make sure the risk assessment is indeed correct. Exclusion zones can be set, and lots of other data can be tied to the selection of the icons, and that data is very specific to those icons, so it's relevant. You get away from all of the non-applicable decisions that have to be made under normal conditions. So when you come to carry out work using the RAP system, it looks a bit like this. We have a master certificate vault that holds all of the information set up for our facility, and we simply look at the work we're doing. So in this particular case, we've got a dirty confined space that we are going to clean. Once we've done that, it will of course be a clean confined space that we may choose to inspect. And once we've inspected it, we might be in a clean confined space and we might carry out some repair. So the way that we organize work is as simple as 1, 2, 3. And being able to use a digital system allows us the level of granularity we need. As an example, if I look at confined spaces, there are lots and lots of forms of confined spaces. So they may be clean confined space, there may be dirty confined spaces, which have far higher restrictions applied to them. It could be inert, floor and ceiling voids, which are things that you see quite often particularly in the pharmaceutical industry. Very important to be able to risk assess for, often with low head height as well. Habitats and enclosures when we might build a tent around the work that we're doing. And even excavations when they go below about 0.5 meter become confined spaces in the eyes of the law. So we need to be able to risk assess. We also need to be able to tie together all of the forms of isolation that may be required in order to make them safe. The examples you can see in the pictures there would be process isolations, simply closing valves and locking them out in order to make sure that there's no fluid running. But the isolations may indeed be electrical type isolations or others, as I've mentioned before. So isolations allow you to specify all of the equipment associated with the isolation so that we can control those energy sources and have the ability to attach drawings, schematics as may be necessary, to print lotto tags to be in full lotto, lockout, tag out compliance. And the system also allows mobile devices to be used to confirm that isolation status in the field. Indeed, we can also look at drawings and mark up P&ID drawings to give the team doing the work detailed instructions of what's required for them to be carried out as work. And that information can be fed in the beginning from MMS systems. Examples of those might be SAP or Maximo, so that the whole thing is a seamless transfer of information from the original creation of the work item right through to carrying out and doing the work successfully in the field. And we can plan that work as well. We can plan it by having reports and dashboards to enable good planning. You can see at that top left, there's a little bit of a peak. So we might look at that and decide that we might want to take some of those jobs and put them on different days because there's a risk of overloading the workforce or overloading the people who are sitting in the background to support us carrying out that work safely. So we can look at existing risk levels, we can look at future risk levels, we can look at the types of jobs that we're being asked to do, and we can start to level load plants, which not only makes them safer places in which to work, but also makes them more efficient. So really what we're looking at here is an integrated workflow. So we start with the core risk assessment. It's why the RAP system has the name RAP. RAP simply stands for the risk assessment process because it is at the heart of everything that we do. So we start with risk assessment. We then create the permit. We select the icons as part of that work. We tie together the isolations as may be necessary and are able to fully map the process so that we have the greatest level of visibility possible for all of the workforce when they come to do the permitted work. And yes, all of that is visible on mobile systems and can be mobile mapped. So when we look at it in a bit more detail, we might look at where the work is, and that would allow us to see where there are exclusion zones as an example. So in this particular example, what you can see is two circles. They're actually cylinders because they go through the floors above and below to make sure that work above or below is notified. But you can see the exclusions where the item with the red dot can't begin while the item with the green dot is still going ahead. And we can use the system to simply look at what we're doing, in this case, some inspection work, and we can see what sorts of exclusions we can apply and conflicts we can apply, in this case, breaking containment, because we wouldn't want to be able to have the risk of opening pipe work near to where somebody's in a confined space because it could pour something nasty on them, or in certain cases where you get a very high flow, it could flood that confined space before they get out, and we'd be looking at fatalities. And it really is as simple and quick as that these things happen and go wrong. But getting it right not only leads to safer working, it leads to some really big advantages in terms of savings that can be had for a business by working in a safer way. A 3-day reduction in turnaround time equates to about a 10% reduction. And 3 days may not sound like a lot, but 3 days of production when you'd plan to be on complete stop is essentially all profit or savings from other times when you have unforeseen shutdowns. So it helps plants to be significantly more efficient. One of our clients looked at us and did an analysis of all of the time that they'd saved being able to plan work out more effectively, savings in creating work, savings from not having to deal with incidents and accidents and the investigations go along with them. And overall, the calculation came out at over $1 million every single year from being able to work more safely. So it really is important that intelligent safety tied together with empowered people, because we believe that everybody should be able to be involved with safety. There are no individual seats on the RAP system in general. Everybody who needs to be involved with safety can have access to the system. And that leads to, in turn, smarter, safer working. And that's really what we at Yokogawa RAP are all about. And we'd be really happy to see you at the Pump and Valve show. And you can see us at our stand, A4181. You can see it on the map there to help you with it. And if you have any questions at all, then please feel free to ask. Come and visit us at the stand, or you can email me at the email address that you can see there. And I think that runs me to the end of my 20 minutes to allow time for any questions. And if there aren't any questions, then we'll look forward to seeing you at the show. And I'll hand back to Dieter.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mark, for this interesting presentation about the risk assessment process. And like I said, there's no Q&A foreseen in this Zoom session, but like you said, everybody is welcome to the booth of Yokogawa to have more information about the system and to get to work smarter and safer in the company. So thank you very much for your presentation today, and maybe I can see you at the show within 2 weeks.
Yeah, I look forward to it, and thank you again for allowing us to present at the show.
Okay, you're welcome.